I never expected my life to change in an examination room that smelled of antiseptic and lavender air freshener. At 44, I thought I had figured myself out. I'd been married to David for 18 years, raised two beautiful teenagers, and built a comfortable life in the suburbs. I was a high school English teacher who spent her weekends at soccer games and her evenings grading papers. My life was predictable, safe, and quietly suffocating in ways I didn't have words for. The panic attacks started 6 months before I met her. They'd come out of nowhere, my heart racing, my chest tight, the world spinning around me. David would find me on the bathroom floor, hyperventilating, and he'd look at me with confusion and growing frustration. "What do you have to be stressed about?" He'd ask, not unkindly, but without understanding. And I couldn't answer him because I didn't know my regular doctor referred me to a cardiologist, just to rule everything out. That's how I ended up in Dr. Maya Patel's office on a rainy Tuesday afternoon in October. She walked into the room, and something in my chest shifted. Not a panic attack this time, but something else entirely. She was petite, maybe 5'3", with dark hair pulled back in a neat bun and the kind of warm brown eyes that made you feel seen. She wore a white coat over navy scrubs, and when she smiled at me, I noticed the tiny gap between her front teeth. "Mrs. Harrison?" "I'm Dr. Patel. I understand you've been having some cardiac symptoms. Why don't you tell me what's been going on?" Her voice was gentle, with the faintest hint of an accent I couldn't quite place. British, maybe, with something else underneath. I found myself wanting to keep her talking just to hear more of it. I explained the panic attacks, the racing heart, the feeling like I couldn't breathe. She listened with complete attention, nodding, asking follow-up questions that no one else had thought to ask. "And when did these start? Was there a particular trigger or event?" "6 months ago," I said. "Nothing specific happened. Everything in my life is fine." She looked at me then, really looked at me, and something passed between us. A recognition, perhaps, of the weight carried in that word, fine. "Well, let's make sure your heart is physically healthy," she said. "Then we can talk about what else might be going on." The examination was professional, routine. She pressed her stethoscope against my chest and asked me to breathe deeply. Her hands were cool and steady. When her fingers touched my wrist to check my pulse, I felt a jolt of electricity that had nothing to do with my heart condition. "Your heart sounds strong," she said, stepping back. "I'd like to run an EKG and maybe a stress test, but I don't think we're looking at anything cardiac. Sometimes our bodies tell us things our minds aren't ready to hear yet." I found myself blinking back unexpected tears. "What do you mean?" She sat down on the rolling stool, putting herself at my eye level. "Anxiety and panic attacks often come when we're suppressing something important. Some truth we're not ready to face. Your heart is trying to get your attention." "I don't know what I'd be suppressing," I said, but even as the words left my mouth, they felt like a lie. She smiled softly. "That's okay. These things reveal themselves in their own time. Let's schedule those tests and I'll see you back here in 2 weeks. In the meantime, I want you to start paying attention to when the panic attacks happen. What you're doing, what you're thinking about, what you might be avoiding." I left her office feeling lighter than I had in months, though I couldn't explain why. Over the next 2 weeks, I found myself thinking about Dr. Patel at odd moments. While teaching Sylvia Plath to my junior class, I remember the way she looked at me with such genuine concern. While cooking dinner for my family, I'd replay our conversation, analyzing every word like it was a poem I needed to decode. David noticed I seemed different. "You seem better," he said one evening. "Less anxious." Yeah, I agreed, not mentioning that I'd barely thought about my panic attacks at all. I'd been too busy thinking about warm brown eyes and a gap-toothed smile. The follow-up appointment came faster than I expected. I'd done the stress test. My heart was perfectly healthy, as Dr. Patel had predicted. Now I was back in her office, waiting for the results. My stomach fluttering with nerves that had nothing to do with my health. She came in with my chart. But instead of sitting behind her desk, she pulled up a chair across from me. The intimacy of the gesture caught me off guard. "Everything looks great, Sarah. Your heart is strong and healthy. The panic attacks are definitely anxiety-related, not cardiac." She paused, studying my face. "Did you do what I suggested? Pay attention to the patterns?" I had. I'd kept a journal, noting every time my chest tightened, every time my breath grew short. And a pattern had emerged, one that terrified me. They happen most when I'm with my husband, I said quietly. When we're being intimate, or when he talks about our future, retirement, growing old together. I feel like I'm suffocating. Dr. Patel nodded slowly. And have you thought about why that might be? I couldn't meet her eyes. I think I've been unhappy for a very long time. I think I married David because it was what I was supposed to do. We were college sweethearts. Everyone expected it. And he's a good man, he really is. But I'm not. The words stuck in my throat. Dr. Patel waited patiently. I don't think I'm in love with him, I finally whispered. I don't think I ever was. Not the way you're supposed to be. That must be a very difficult realization, she said gently. I keep thinking there's something wrong with me. That I'm broken somehow. Every other woman I know seems content with their lives, their marriages. Why can't I be? Dr. Patel leaned forward slightly. Sarah, can I share something with you? Professionally and also personally. I nodded, my heart racing again, but this time in anticipation. I see a lot of patients with anxiety, especially women your age. And very often, it's because they're living lives that don't fit them anymore. Maybe never fit them. Society tells us who we should be, who we should love, what should make us happy. But our bodies know the truth. She paused. I went through something similar myself years ago. I was married to a man living what looked like a perfect life. And I was miserable in ways I couldn't name. The air in the room felt charged. What happened? I asked. I realized I'd been lying to myself about who I was. About what I wanted. About who I was capable of loving. Her eyes met mine, and in them I saw my own truth reflected back at me. I came out when I was 38. It was the hardest and best thing I ever did. The word hung between us, out. As in coming out. As in gay, lesbian, queer. Labels I never seriously applied to myself, though in the secret corners of my mind, late at night, I'd wondered. I started then stopped. I've noticed women, but I always told myself everyone does that. I married David, I had children with him. I can't be gay? Dr. Patel supplied gently. Sarah, sexuality is complex. Some people know from childhood. Others don't figure it out until much later. There's no deadline for self-discovery. And being attracted to women doesn't negate your past. Your marriage, your children, those are real. Your feelings were real in whatever form they took. But that doesn't mean you have to stay in a life that's making you sick. I felt tears streaming down my face. And I wasn't even sure when I'd started crying. Dr. Patel handed me a box of tissues. Her eyes kind and understanding. I don't know what to do, I sobbed. I have a family. A life. I can't just blow everything up because I'm having some kind of midlife crisis. This isn't a crisis, she said firmly. This is you finally being honest with yourself. And yes, it's complicated. It's going to be hard. But Sarah, you're having panic attacks because your body is rejecting a lie you've been living. That's not sustainable. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to live authentically. I don't even know what that looks like, I admitted. That's okay. You don't have to figure it all out today. But maybe start with small truths. Acknowledge what you're feeling. Explore it. There are support groups, therapists who specialize in late in life coming out. You don't have to do this alone. We talked for another 30 minutes, way longer than a typical appointment. She gave me resources, names of therapists, websites for women who come out later in life. As I got ready to leave, she touched my hand briefly. Sarah, I hope this doesn't feel inappropriate, but you're going to be okay. I know it doesn't feel like it now, but you're at the beginning of something beautiful. Finding yourself, your real self, it's scary, but it's also extraordinary. I looked down at where her hand rested on mine, feeling that electric connection again. Thank you, I whispered. For understanding. For sharing your story. Of course, she said, and when our eyes met, something passed between us again. Something unspoken but unmistakable. I drove home in a daze, Dr. Patel's words echoing in my mind. When I walked into my house, David was making dinner, and my kids were doing homework at the kitchen table. My normal life, my safe life. But now it felt like I was looking at it through glass, separate from it somehow. That night, lying next to David in bed, I felt the familiar panic rising. But this time I understood it. My body was screaming what my mind had been too afraid to acknowledge. This isn't right. This isn't me. This isn't enough. The next few weeks were a blur of research and secret exploration. I'd lock my classroom door during lunch and read coming out stories on my phone. I'd lie in bed at night after David fell asleep, scrolling through LGBTQ+ forums, reading about women who'd left marriages, who'd found themselves at 40, 50, 60. Their stories were terrifying and exhilarating and equal. I made an appointment with one of the therapists Dr. Patel had. Recommended a woman named Dr. Chen who specialized in sexuality and late-stage coming out. In her office, I finally said the words out loud. I think I'm gay. Or bisexual. Or something. I don't know. I've been married to a man for 18 years, but I don't think I ever really wanted him. Not the way I should. Not the way I trailed off. Not the way you what? Dr. Chen prompted gently. Not the way I think about her, I admitted, my face flushing. Who's her? My cardiologist, Dr. Patel. I can't stop thinking about her. The way she looked at me, the way she listened. I've never felt this way about anyone, not even David when we first met. Is that crazy? To develop feelings for your doctor? Dr. Chen smiled. It's actually quite common. Often when we're on the verge of a major realization about ourselves, we project our emerging feelings onto someone who represents that new identity. Dr. Patel is a lesbian who came out later in life, just like you're considering. She's a mirror for what you might become. Whether your feelings for her are genuine attraction or transference, they're telling you something important about yourself. So, you think I'm gay? I think you're someone who's questioning their sexuality and beginning to acknowledge an attraction to women. Whether you ultimately identify as gay, bisexual, queer, or something else entirely is up to you. There's no rush to label yourself, but I wanted to label myself. I wanted to know definitively who I was. I started watching lesbian movies, reading lesbian literature. I'd been teaching literature for 20 years, and suddenly I was seeing queer subtext everywhere, in books I'd taught a dozen times. How had I missed it? Or had I seen it all along and just refused to acknowledge what it meant? I thought about Emily Dickinson's passionate letters to Susan Gilbert, Virginia Woolf and Vita Sackville West. All those romantic friendships history had tried to erase. All those women who'd loved women but had to hide it, deny it. Code it in poetry and letters and secret glances. I thought about myself at 16. Having sleepovers with my best friend Rachel, feeling butterflies when she changed clothes in front of me. I'd convinced myself I was just admiring her, wanting to look like her. But now I wondered, had it been more? I thought about my wedding night with David, feeling oddly detached from my own body. I blamed nerves and experience. But what if it was something else? I thought about all the times I'd looked at women actresses, coworkers, strangers on the street and told myself I was just appreciating their beauty, objectively, the way everyone does, except not everyone does that. Not with that intensity. Not with that longing. One afternoon, I was in the grocery store when I saw two women holding hands in the produce section. They were my age, maybe a bit older, picking out avocados together with the comfortable intimacy of a long-term couple. One of them said something that made the other laugh, and they shared a look so full of love and tenderness that I felt my chest constrict. I wanted that. Not just that specific couple, but that feeling. That ease. That rightness. I stood there in the middle of the grocery store, holding a basket of vegetables I didn't remember selecting, and the truth washed over me like a wave. I was gay. Not confused, not going through a phase, not experiencing some kind of midlife crisis. I was a lesbian who'd spent 44 years living someone else's life. The panic attack that followed was the worst one yet. I abandoned my groceries and barely made it to my car before I couldn't breathe. But mixed in with the panic was something else, relief. Bone-deep, overwhelming relief. I finally knew the truth. Knowing the truth and acting on it were two different things. I spent weeks in paralysis, going through the motions of my life while feeling like an actor in a play I no longer believed in. David could tell something was wrong. "You've been distant," he said one evening. The kids were at friends' houses and we were alone. "Ever since you started seeing that cardiologist. Are you sure everything's okay with your heart?" "My heart is fine," I said, the irony not lost on me. It's not a heart condition. Then what is it? Sarah, talk to me. We've been married for 8 years. I know when something's wrong. I looked at him then, really looked at him. David was a good man. He worked hard, he loved our children, he'd never been cruel or unfaithful. He didn't deserve what I was about to do to him. But I couldn't keep living a lie. I think we need to talk, I said. Really talk. His face went pale. Are you having an affair? No, I said quickly. Nothing like that. But David, I've been doing a lot of thinking, a lot of soul searching. And I've realized something about myself. Something important. Over the next hour, I tried to explain what I'd been going through. I told him about the panic attacks, about Dr. Patel's observations, about the therapy, about the realization that had been building for months. I watched his face cycle through confusion, disbelief, anger, and finally, a kind of hollow devastation. You're gay? He repeated as if testing out the words. How can you be gay? We have kids together. We've had sex for 18 years. I know. And I'm not saying our marriage was a lie. I loved you, David. I still do in a way. But I don't think I was ever in love with you. Not the way a wife should be. I thought what we had was enough. I thought marriage was just about partnership and commitment. I didn't know there was supposed to be more. More? His voice was sharp now. I gave you everything, Sarah, a home, a family, stability. What more could there be? Passion, I said softly. Desire. That feeling of coming alive when someone walks into the room. I thought that was just movie stuff, romance novel nonsense. But it's real, David, and we never had it. Because you're gay, he said flatly. Yes, because I'm gay. And I'm so sorry I didn't know sooner. I'm sorry I wasted your time. I'm sorry I built this life with you when I couldn't fully give you what you deserved. He stood up, pacing the living room. What about the kids? What are we going to tell them? Their mother is leaving their father to... What, to be with women? I'm not leaving you for someone else. There's no one else. I'm leaving because I need to live honestly. And yes, we'll have to tell them. They're 16 and 14, they're old enough to understand. Understand? He laughed bitterly. You think they're going to understand their mother destroying our family because she had some kind of epiphany? I'm not destroying our family. We'll always be a family. We're just changing shape. But even as I said it, I knew how naive it sounded. Divorce was destruction, no matter how gently you tried to frame it. Our family as we knew it was ending, and I was the one ending it. The next few months were brutal. David moved into the guest room. We told the kids, and it went about as badly as I'd feared. My daughter, Emma, cried and accused me of being selfish. My son, Jake, shut down completely, refusing to talk to me for weeks. You're ruining everything, Emma sobbed. Why can't you just be normal? Normal. The word I'd spent my whole life trying to embody. And look where it had gotten me. My parents were devastated. My mother cried and asked where she'd gone wrong. My father stopped speaking to me entirely. Friends from church disappeared overnight. My entire social circle, built around couples' dinners and kids' activities and shared suburban experiences, crumbled up, but through it all, I kept going to therapy. I kept reading, learning, connecting with other women who'd walked this path. And slowly, painfully, I started to build a new life. I hadn't seen Dr. Patel since that second appointment 4 months ago. I'd switched to a new doctor, thinking it would be easier to move on if I wasn't seeing her. But I couldn't stop thinking about her. In my darkest moments, when Emma wouldn't speak to me or David looked at me with betrayal in his eyes, I'd remember the kindness in Dr. Patel's face. The understanding in her voice. Dr. Chun had warned me about this. Be careful about putting too much meaning on your feelings for Dr. Patel, she'd said. Right now, she represents everything you're trying to become. But that's different from actually knowing her, from having a real connection. I knew she was right. But knowing something intellectually and feeling it emotionally are different things. I'd moved into a small apartment in March, finally giving David the space to start healing. The kids split their time between us, though Emma made it clear she preferred her father's house. My new place was sparse, just the basics I'd taken from our home. But it was mine. For the first time in my life, I had a space that was entirely my own, One Saturday in April, I was at a coffee shop downtown grading papers when I heard a familiar voice. Sarah? I looked up and there she was, Dr. Patel. Dressed casually in jeans and a light sweater, her hair down around her shoulders instead of pulled back. She looked younger, more relaxed. Dr. Patel, I said, my heart immediately racing. Hi, please call me Maya. We're not in my office. She gestured to the empty chair at my table. May I? Of course. She sat down with her coffee and we looked at each other for a moment, 1,000 unspoken things passing between us. How are you? She asked gently, and somehow with those 3 simple words, the dam broke. I told her everything, the separation, the divorce proceedings, coming out to my kids, losing friends, the slow, painful process of rebuilding my life as an openly gay woman at 40-5. She listened with the same focused attention she'd given me in her office, nodding, asking questions, her eyes full of compassion. I know it doesn't feel like it now, she said when I finished. But you're incredibly brave. What you're doing, choosing yourself, choosing honesty, that takes real courage. I don't feel brave, I admitted. I feel like I'm destroying everything. You're not destroying. You're transforming. There's a difference. She paused, seeming to wrestle with something. Sarah, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but when you stopped coming to appointments, I wondered if I'd overstepped. If I projected my own experience onto you and pushed you toward a decision you weren't ready for. No, I said quickly. You didn't push me toward anything. You just helped me see what was already there. I stopped coming because... I hesitated, then decided honesty had to extend to this too. Because I had feelings for you. Or I thought I did. And it seemed wrong to keep seeing you when I was having these confusing emotions. Maya smiled softly. Dr. Chen's patient, right? She mentioned she was working with someone who developed transference with their cardiologist. She didn't use names, but I guessed. Is that what it is? Transference? Maybe partially, but Sarah... She reached across the table, her hand hovering near mine without quite touching. I have to be honest with you. When you walked into my office last October, I felt something too. And I've been thinking about you for months, which is wildly unprofessional, but there it is. I convinced myself it was just concern for a patient going through a difficult time. But running into you here, seeing you... She took a breath. It's not just concern. The world seemed to narrow to just the 2 of us, sitting in this busy coffee shop with the spring sun streaming through the windows. Her hand finally closed over mine, and that electric feeling I felt at our first meeting intensified tenfold. I'm still technically your doctor, she said, which makes this complicated. And you're still going through a divorce, which makes it even more complicated. This is probably the worst possible timing. Probably, I agreed, unable to look away from her eyes. But I'd really like to see you again. Outside of a medical context. Maybe dinner? I'd like that too, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Our first date was at a quiet Thai restaurant in a neighborhood, where we were unlikely to run into anyone we knew. We were both nervous. Maya admitted she hadn't dated much since her own divorce 5 years earlier, and I told her I never actually dated a woman before. You've never been with a woman? She asked, surprised. Never. I spent my whole adult life married to a man. I came out and immediately my life exploded. Dating hasn't exactly been a priority, so I'd be your first? The way she said it, the heat in her eyes, made me flush. If things go that way, yes. And that doesn't scare you? Everything scares me, I admitted. But this, being here with you, is the first thing in months that feels right. We talked for hours that night. She told me about her life growing up in London with Indian parents, moving to the US for medical school, marrying a fellow doctor because it seemed like the logical thing to do. The slow realization that she was living a lie. I always knew deep down, she said. I had crushes on girls in school, but I told myself it was just admiration. Then in university, I fell in love with my roommate. We were together in secret for 2 years. But when we graduated, she married a man, and I convinced myself I could do the same. That I could be normal. Normal, I repeated. That word keeps coming up. It's what we're taught to want. Normal, acceptable, safe. But normal isn't worth living if it means denying who you are. By our 3rd date, we were inseparable. Maya would come over to my tiny apartment after her shifts at the hospital, and we'd cook dinner together, watch movies, talk until dawn. She met me after my classes sometimes, and we'd walk around campus, keeping a careful distance but exchanging looks that spoke volumes. "We're taking this slow," Maya said one evening, curled up on my couch. "Making sure this is real and not just timing." "Is that what you think?" I asked. "That it's just timing?" She turned to look at me, her hand coming up to cut my cheek. "No, I think this is very real. But you're still going through a divorce. You're still figuring out who you are. I don't want to be a rebound or a rebellion." "You're not," I said firmly. "Maya, I've spent my whole life not feeling things, going through the motions. But this, what I feel for you, it's the first real thing I've ever experienced." She leaned in and kissed me then, soft and sweet, and I felt it everywhere. Every nerve ending came alive. This was what I'd been missing. This was what all those romance novels and love songs were about. This feeling of being consumed and completed all at once. We made love for the first time on a rainy night in May. I was nervous, self-conscious about my 45-year-old body, terrified I wouldn't know what to do. But Maya was patient and gentle, guiding me, showing me, teaching me what it meant to be truly present in my own body. Afterward, lying in her arms, I cried. Not from sadness, but from relief. From joy. From the overwhelming sensation of finally being exactly where I was supposed to be. "I love you," I whispered, the words spilling out before I could stop them. Maya pulled back to look at me, her eyes shining. "I love you too. I think I have since that first appointment, even though I tried not to. We're really doing this? Even though it's complicated and messy and probably too fast?" "Especially because it's complicated and messy," she said. "Real love is messy, Sarah. It doesn't wait for the perfect moment. It just happens, and you either run from it or you leap into it." "I choose leap," I said, and kissed her again. The next year was a study in contrasts. Professionally, things were challenging. Some parents at my school objected to having an openly gay teacher, and there were uncomfortable meetings with the principal. But I also received support from unexpected places students who came out to me, who said my visibility mattered, fellow teachers who stood by me. My relationship with my kids slowly improved. Jake eventually came around, saying he just wanted me to be happy. Emma took longer, but after meeting Maya a few times, she softened. "She's really good to you, Mom," she said one day. "Dad was never. I don't think he ever looked at you the way she does." "What do you mean?" "Like you're the most important person in the world. Like he can't believe his luck. Dad loved you, I guess, but it was kind of boring. This is different. It's like you're actually alive now. Out of the mouths of teenagers." Emma's observations stayed with me. I was alive now in a way I'd never been before. Colors seemed brighter, food tasted better, everything had more texture and depth. I'd been sleepwalking through my life, and Maya had woken me up. Maya and I moved in together that fall. It felt fast, but also inevitable. We'd been practically living together anyway, and maintaining 2 apartments seemed silly. We found a small house in a quiet neighborhood, one with a garden where Maya could grow herbs and vegetables, and a sunroom where I could read and grade papers. We hosted our first dinner party in December. A mix of Maya's friends from the hospital and my LGBTQ+ book club members. Watching Maya move through our home, filling glasses and laughing with guests, I felt a contentment so profound it almost hurt. David had started dating someone too, a kind woman named Jennifer who worked with him. When he dropped the kids off one Sunday and mentioned her, I felt nothing but relief and genuine happiness for him. "You seem good," I told him. "Really good." "I am," he said. "It took me a while to get here, but I think this is better for both of us." "You were right, we didn't have passion." "I have it now." I didn't know what I was missing either. "I'm glad," I said, and meant it. "Jennifer thinks you're brave, by the way. Coming out, starting over. She lost a friend last year who stayed in the closet her whole life, married to a man she didn't love. She died never having lived authentically. Jennifer said that's the real tragedy." I thought about that as I watched him drive away. How many people were out there, living lives that didn't fit, too afraid to change? How many panic attacks and sleepless nights and slowly dying spirits? I'd been one of them. But not anymore. Maya proposed to me on a beach in Mexico during a vacation we'd saved up for all year. We'd spent the day swimming and reading and talking about everything and nothing. As the sun started to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, she took my hand. "Sarah, I need to tell you something." "That sounds ominous," I joked. But my heart was racing. When you walked into my office 2 years ago, I was in a place where I'd convinced myself I was fine alone. I'd had my great love, my marriage, and it ended badly. I thought that was it for me, my career and my friends and my own company. And then you came in with your panic attacks and your confusion and your fear, and something in me recognized something in you. Recognized what? A woman on the edge of her own life, about to step into who she really was. And I wanted to be there for it. I told myself it was professional concern, but it was more than that from the start. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small velvet box. "I don't know if you want to get married again. I know you just got out of a marriage that didn't work. But Sarah, I want to spend my life with you. I want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep next to you every night. I want to grow old with you, travel with you, build a life with you. Will you marry me?" I was crying too hard to speak for a moment. Finally, I managed, "Yes, yes, absolutely yes." She slipped the ring on my finger, a simple gold band with 3 small diamonds. "I know it's not much." "It's perfect," I interrupted. "It's absolutely perfect." We were married the following summer in Maya's parents' garden. They'd flown in from London, and despite their initial reservations about their daughter's sexuality, they'd come to embrace me as part of their family. My kids stood up as part of the wedding party, Emma as my maid of honor, and Jake walking me down the aisle since my own father still wasn't speaking to me. David came to the wedding too, with Jennifer. In his toast, he said something that made everyone laugh and cry at the same time. He spoke about how ending their marriage had freed both of them to find authentic happiness, and he thanked Maya for loving me so completely. He thanked Emma and Jake for their resilience, and everyone there for supporting love in all its forms. As Maya and I danced our first dance as a married couple, I looked around at all the people who'd shown up for us chosen family. Blood family but had come around, friends old and new. My life looked nothing like I'd imagined it would when I was young, but it was so much better than anything I could have planned. "What are you thinking?" Maya asked, her arms around my waist. That I'm the luckiest woman alive. That I almost missed this. That I spent 44 years not knowing what love actually felt like. And now? Now I know. And I'm never letting go. 3 years after I first walked into Maya's office, I was giving a talk at a LGBTQ+ youth center downtown. It had become something I did regularly, speaking to teens who were struggling with their identities, who felt alone or scared or broken. I came out at 44, I told the room full of teenagers. Some of you might think that's ancient. They laughed. But it's never too late to live honestly. I spent most of my life thinking I was broken because I couldn't love my husband the way I was supposed to. I had panic attacks because my body was rejecting a lie I didn't even know I was telling. A girl in the front row raised her hand. "But didn't you lose everything? Your husband, your friends, some of your family?" "I did lose things," I acknowledged. "But I also gained so much more. I gained myself. I gained the ability to love and be loved authentically. I gained a wife who sees me, really sees me in ways no one ever had before. I gained a community of people who understand what it means to live honestly. And most importantly, I gained peace. The panic attacks stopped. The suffocating feeling disappeared. Because I was finally living in alignment with who I actually am." A boy in the back spoke up. "How did you know for sure? Like, how did you know you weren't just confused or going through something temporary?" "That's a great question," I said. And honestly, I didn't know for sure at first. There was a lot of doubt, a lot of second guessing. But I paid attention to my body, to my feelings. When I was with my husband, I felt anxious and trapped. When I acknowledged my attraction to women, when I finally let myself imagine a life with a woman, I felt relief and excitement and rightness. Your body knows the truth, even when your mind is trying to protect you from it. After the talk, several kids came up to speak with me privately. One girl, maybe 16, with tears in her eyes, whispered, "My mom is married to my dad, but I don't think she's happy. She seems so sad all the time." Do you think? Could she be like you? I took her hands gently. I don't know, sweetheart. But what I do know is that it's not your responsibility to fix your mom's unhappiness. That's her journey to take. All you can do is love her and let her know that whoever she is, whatever she discovers about herself, you'll still love her. I would, the girl said earnestly. I just want her to be happy. Then maybe tell her that sometime. It might mean more than you know. Maya was waiting for me in the parking lot when I finished. She'd been at the hospital all day but had driven over to pick me up. When I got in the car, she leaned over and kissed me. How'd it go? Good, hard, but good. There was a girl whose mother might be closeted. It reminded me of Emma at that age, trying to make sense of everything. Speaking of Emma, Maya said, pulling out of the parking lot, she called me today. Really? What did she say? Maya smiled. She wanted to know if we'd be upset if she and her girlfriend got married before finishing college. I nearly choked. Emma's getting married? She's only 20. She's 21, actually. And yes, apparently they've been talking about it. She wanted our blessing. What did you tell her? I told her that we support whatever decision she makes, but that there's no rush. That love doesn't have a deadline. Maya glanced at me. She also said something else. She said she's grateful you came out when you did, because it taught her that it's never too late to choose happiness, but it's also never too early. That seeing us together showed her what real love looks like, and that's what she wants for herself. Tears pricked my eyes. She said that? She did. Sarah, you broke your family open, but you also showed your kids how to live authentically. That's not a small thing. My father showed up at our house on a Tuesday evening in October, 5 years after I'd come out. I hadn't seen him since before the divorce. He stood on our doorstep, looking older and smaller than I remembered, his hands shoved in his pockets. Dad, I said, shock rendering me temporarily speechless. Sarah, can I come in? I stepped aside, and he entered our home for the first time. Maya was in the kitchen making dinner, and she froze when she saw him. Mr. Mitchell, she said politely. You must be Maya, he said. His voice was gruff, uncomfortable. I've heard a lot about you. From whom? I asked, finding my voice. You haven't spoken to me in 5 years. From your mother. She's been keeping me updated, even though I told her not to. He looked around our living room, taking in the photos on the walls, Maya and me on vacation, at our wedding, with the kids. She showed me pictures, too. Said I was being stubborn and stupid. Mom said that? I asked, surprised. My mother had been distant, though not as hostile as my father. She did. And she said if I died without making peace with you, she'd never forgive me. He cleared his throat. I had a heart attack 3 months ago. Nearly died. It made me think about things. Maya immediately went into doctor mode. Are you okay? Are you on medication? Have you been following up with your cardiologist? He looked at her with surprise, then something that might have been respect. I'm fine. They put in a stent. I'm on blood thinners. He turned back to me. Your mother said you had a health scare too. Panic attacks. Yes, that's how I met Maya, actually. She was my cardiologist. Huh. He sat down heavily on our couch, uninvited but somehow fragile. I don't understand this, Sarah. I don't understand how you were married for all those years. Had kids, and then suddenly you're with a woman. It wasn't sudden, Dad. I was always gay. I just didn't know it. Or I knew it but couldn't admit it. But how could you not know something like that about yourself? Maya spoke up gently. Mr. Mitchell, if I may, I didn't know either until I was 38. Society teaches us to ignore certain feelings, to interpret them as something else. Sarah loved David in the way she knew how to love at the time. But it wasn't romantic love. Not the way it should have been. My father looked at her for a long moment. You seem like a good person. A doctor, responsible. You take care of my daughter? I try to. Just as she takes care of me. And you're happy? He asked me, his voice cracking slightly. Truly happy? Happier than I've ever been in my life, I said honestly. Dad, I know this isn't what you wanted from me. I know it goes against everything you believe. But this is who I am. This is my life. and I'd really like you to be part of it if you can find a way." He was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, "I missed Emma's graduation. Jake's 18th birthday. I've missed 5 years of your life because I was too proud and too stubborn to accept something I don't fully understand." He looked up at me with tears in his eyes. "I don't want to miss any more." I sat down next to him, and for the first time in 5 years, my father hugged me. He felt frail in my arms, this man who'd always seemed so strong and immovable. "I can't promise I'll understand it all," he said. "I'm an old man set in my ways. But you're my daughter. That's more important than anything else." Maya made us all tea, and we sat in our living room really talking for the first time in years. My father asked questions, some of them awkward, but all of them genuine. He wanted to understand. Maybe he never fully would, but he was trying. And that was more than I'd ever hoped for. When he left that evening, he shook Maya's hand. "Take care of her," he said. "Always." Maya promised Dot after he drove away. I collapsed into Maya's arms. "I can't believe that just happened." "People can surprise you," she said, kissing the top of my head. "Sometimes it takes a brush with mortality to shake loose what's really important." 6 months after my father's visit, I received a letter in the mail. The return address was from a woman I didn't know in a city I'd never been to. I opened it curiously. "Dear Sarah, you don't know me, but I was at your talk at the LGBTQ Youth Center last year. I wasn't one of the kids, I was actually volunteering there, helping to organize the event. I'm 52 years old, and I've been married to my husband for 30 years. When you spoke about your panic attacks, about feeling like you were suffocating in your own life, it was like you were describing my last decade. I've been having these episodes where I can't breathe, where I feel like the walls are closing in. My doctor says it's anxiety, put me on medication, but nothing helps. I haven't been able to stop thinking about what you said. About your body rejecting a lie you were telling. About finally feeling at peace when you acknowledged who you really were. Sarah, I think I'm gay. I'm 52 years old, and I've never said those words before, not even in my own head. But I have 3 grown children, a husband who's been nothing but good to me. A whole life built on a foundation that I'm now realizing is false. I'm terrified. I'm too old to start over. My family will never understand. My church will reject me. I'll lose everything, but I'm also exhausted. I'm so tired of pretending, of going through the motions, of feeling like a stranger in my own life. I don't know why I'm writing to you. Maybe because you seem like someone who would understand. Maybe because I don't have anyone else I can tell. Maybe because I need to know it's possible to survive this. Is it? Is it possible to blow up your entire life at 52 and come out the other side okay? Sincerely, Jennifer K. I read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down my face. Maya found me at the kitchen table, the letter clutched in my hands. "What's wrong?" she asked, concerned. I handed her the letter. She read it silently, her expression softening with understanding. "Are you going to write back?" she asked. "I have to, don't I?" "Maya, this could be me. This is me just a few years earlier. If someone had reached out to me when I was first questioning everything, then write to her. Tell her your story. Give her hope." I spent the next 2 hours crafting my response. I told Jennifer everything, the fear, the loss, the pain of divorce and estrangement. But I also told her about the other side. About falling in love for the first time at 45. About waking up excited for the day ahead. About the profound relief of living honestly. About my kids eventually coming around. About my father showing up on my doorstep. "Dear Jennifer," I wrote, "it is possible. It's terrifying and painful, and you will lose things. But you will also gain yourself, and that is worth everything. You are not too old. 52, 62, 72, it's never too late to live authentically. Your body is trying to tell you something. Please listen to it. I'm including my email address. If you need someone to talk to, someone who understands, please reach out. You don't have to do this alone." 3 weeks later, I got an email from Jennifer. She'd told her husband. They were in marriage counseling, trying to figure out how to untangle 30 years of shared life. Her children were struggling. But she'd also contacted a therapist who specialized in late-stage coming out, and she'd joined an online support group for women like us. "I'm taking it one day at a time," she wrote. "Some days I think I'm making a terrible mistake. Other days I feel like I can finally breathe. Thank you for writing back. Thank you for giving me hope that there's a life on the other side of this. Over the next year, Jennifer and I emailed regularly. I watched from a distance as she navigated her own journey, the painful separation from her husband, the rocky relationship with her adult children, the first tentative steps into the LGBTQ community. She went on her first date with a woman at 53. She moved into her own apartment at 54. She came out at work at 50-5. And through it all, she kept writing to me, keeping me updated on her progress. Her emails became less desperate and more hopeful. She started signing them with a different name, Jenny, instead of Jennifer. A small thing, but significant. I'm reclaiming myself, she wrote. Choosing the name I want instead of the one I was given. It feels like a new beginning, 7 years after that first panic attack in my bathroom. I was invited to speak at a medical conference about the connection between physical symptoms and suppressed identity. Maya was presenting too, on cardiac manifestations of anxiety, and we'd been asked to speak together about my case. Standing in front of a room full of doctors, I told my story again. But this time, Maya was beside me, holding my hand, adding medical context to my lived experience. When Sarah came into my office, Maya told the audience all of her cardiac tests were normal, but she was having real debilitating symptoms. It would have been easy to dismiss her as anxious, to prescribe medication and send her on her way. But I recognized something in her, a woman at war with herself. And Dr. Patel saved my life, I added. Not by treating my heart, but by helping me see that my heart was trying to tell me something. She gave me permission to question everything I thought I knew about myself. After our presentation, a young doctor approached us. She couldn't have been more than 30, with kind eyes and a nervous smile. Dr. Patel, Mrs. Patel, she said, and I still got a thrill every time someone called me that. I just wanted to thank you for your talk. I'm struggling with something similar. I'm engaged to a man, and everyone's so excited, but I feel sick every time I think about the wedding. And listening to you, I realized... She trailed off, tears in her eyes. Maya and I exchanged a look. Would you like to get coffee? Maya asked gently. We have some time before our next session. In the hotel cafe, the young doctor, her name was Rebecca, poured out her story. Engaged to her medical school boyfriend, wedding planned for next year, everyone's expectations weighing on her. But she'd been having dreams about women, fantasies she couldn't shut down, a growing sense of dread about her future. I don't want to be gay, she said miserably. It would be so much easier if I wasn't. It would be easier, I agreed. But Rebecca, easy isn't the same as right. And spending your life wishing you were someone else is its own kind of prison. But how do I know for sure? What if I blow up my life and then realize I made a mistake? Maya leaned forward. Rebecca, I'm going to tell you what I wish someone had told me when I was your age. You don't have to know for sure. You just have to be honest about what you're feeling right now. If you're dreading your wedding, if you're fantasizing about women, if you feel sick at the thought of spending your life with this man, that's information. That's your body telling you something. What did you do? Rebecca asked me. When you first realized? I panicked, I admitted. I tried to ignore it. But eventually I had to face it. And yes, it was hard. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. But Rebecca, I'm happier now than I ever thought possible. I wake up every day grateful that I had the courage to change my life, even though you lost things. Even though the things I lost weren't really mine to begin with, they were borrowed, based on a version of myself that didn't really exist. What I have now is real. It's mine. And it's so much better. We talked with Rebecca for over an hour, giving her resources, sharing our stories, letting her know she wasn't alone. When we finally parted ways, she hugged us both tightly. Thank you, she whispered. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but thank you for making me feel less crazy. 6 months later, we got an email from Rebecca. She'd broken off her engagement. She'd come out to her family. She'd started dating a woman she'd met at a different medical conference. She was terrified and exhilarated and more herself than she'd ever been. You two gave me hope, she wrote. Seeing you together, seeing how happy you are, seeing that it's possible to find love and authenticity even after so much loss, it gave me the courage to choose myself. Thank you for that gift, because on the other side of all that fear and pain is this, a life that fits, a love that's real, A self that I finally know. Sometimes late at night, Maya and I lie in bed and talk about how we found each other. Do you think we would have met if you hadn't come to my office? She asks, I don't know, maybe the universe has a funny way of bringing people together. I'm glad it brought you to me, she says, pulling me closer, even though I was a mess. Especially because you were a mess. You were real. You were on the edge of becoming yourself. That's a beautiful thing to witness. I kiss her then. This woman who saw me when I couldn't see myself. Who held up a mirror and helped me recognize my own reflection. I love you, I whisper. I love you too, she says. Thank you for having that panic attack 10 years ago. I laugh. Thank you for being the doctor who saw more than just symptoms. Thank you for being brave enough to listen. We fell asleep like that, tangled together. Two women who found each other in the middle of their lives and built something beautiful from the rubble of their old one's dawn and in the morning. We'll wake up and do it all again, this extraordinary, ordinary life we've created together. This life that almost didn't happen because I was too afraid to admit who I really was. But I did admit it. One chose myself. I chose truth. I chose love, and that has made all the difference. It's been 10 years since I walked into Maya's office with a racing heart and a life that didn't fit. I'm 54 now, and Maya is 52. We've been married for 7 years. Emma got married last year to her wife in a beautiful ceremony where I walked her down the aisle. Jake is engaged to a wonderful man he met in graduate school. David and Jennifer got married too. And we all attended their wedding, a blended family that doesn't fit any traditional mold but works beautifully in its own strange way. My father eventually came around after a health scare made him reevaluate his priorities. He comes for dinner once a month now, and while he still doesn't fully understand my life, he loves Maya and adores our cats. My mother visits more often, always bringing food and stories. I wrote a book about my experience that's helped countless women who thought it was too late for them. I get messages almost daily from women in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, all discovering or rediscovering their sexuality. All terrified and brave and beautiful. Maya still works at the hospital, but she's also become an advocate for LGBTQ+ health issues. She gives talks about the importance of asking the right questions, of looking beyond physical symptoms to the whole person. We have a good life. Not perfect, no life is perfect. We argue about whose turn it is to do the dishes and whether we can adopt another cat. Maya says no, I say absolutely yes. We struggle with aging bodies and career stress and the normal challenges of any long-term relationship. But every morning, I wake up next to the woman I love and I feel grateful. Grateful that I had that first panic attack that sent me to her office. Grateful that I found the courage to change my life. Grateful for every difficult conversation, every tear shed, every bridge burned and rebuilt.